What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Partially Cultured Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me, as always, are my co hosts, Alan and Isaac.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going, guys?
And you guys don't forget to check out our webpage, partiallycultured.com. We've got all our social media links in the bottom. Go check us out on YouTube. Um, Leave a comment. Tell us what you guys want to hear, what you don't want to hear, what you agree with, what your opinion on things. You know, Stay in contact with us. Let us know something. So today, let's talk about um, technological advancement. We kind of touched on this a little bit with our AI and robotics and stuff, but today we're going to dive a little deeper into just technological advancement overall. Just in the past, say, I don't know, 100 years. Um, you know, where are we going? Are we playing God? With all these advancements. So what's going on? So, Isaac, why don't you start us off on this? What do you think? What do you think about this?
Well, we know that throughout history we've been stuck in kind of this uh, you know, agrarian society for hundreds, well, thousands of years, really, probably like 5 or 6 thousand years, and then around the late 1700s, 1800s, where you have a huge jump in technological advancement, and things got a lot easier for a lot of people. We had populations increase, you know, outrageously increasing, to the point where we have like 7 billion people on Earth, and people even have the kind of like the opinion that there's too many people on Earth at this point. Along with that, you've got the quality of life and such that people in the past would have never dreamed, would be possible.
Yeah.
But there's some negative aspects of the scientific advancement that we've had in the past couple hundred years, and I'm just kind of curious what you guys think about it. Like, do you think that science and the scientific advancement is a good thing, is it a bad thing, or is it a little bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think we've had really great scientific discoveries, and I think we've had some, not so great scientific discoveries like, the ability to create chemical weapons and stuff like that.
Nuclear bombs.
Yeah, nuclear bombs. You know, all that stuff is, and it always seems that the negatives outweigh the goods. Because there's always power and greed involved. That's kind of a running thing on our when we talk. It's always power and greed. Money and power is always fucks everything up.
I think that's the big takeaway. I feel like a lot of the scientific advancements have all this potential for good, but we somehow find a way to like make it only matter because if it makes money, right? Like if it doesn't make someone money, there's things that probably have never even took a hold in society, right? Because if there's not some way for someone to get rich or for someone to monetize it or commercialize it, like shit will just die on the vine, even if it is something that's good for everyone at large, right? Like even stuff like something as recent as like we can probably get off fossil fuels if we wanted to, right? Which seems like it would probably be a good idea if we all just collectively invested in like wind energy and solar energy and water energy and geothermal and shit. Like if we really, really wanted to, the entire world got together and said, we're going to just throw a shit ton of money at this, put a whole bunch of people to work, and we're going to make the entire world just get off this bullshit that's, fucking up the atmosphere and whatever. We could do it, but we won't. And it's not happening anywhere near as fast as it should because people aren't making money on it. Like we have to make money on it. So
well, that's why there's no medical cures. There's just band-aids because the pharmaceutical
somewhere
industry exists.
after polio, they realized that there wasn't a lot of money in the cures.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're talking about businesses, and businesses don't stay in business by getting rid of diseases.
But that's
not in reality.
that goes to the whole concept of like capitalism and like why certain things maybe shouldn't be free market like entities or like the responsibility of the free market to figure out, right? Like one of the things that government should exist for, if it's going to exist at all, right, is for the common good. And when there's going to be things that are beneficial for humanity as a whole that aren't something that we should profit off of, maybe that's something we could use that tax money for to to fund.
I don't know. I don't want to get in the free market and the capitalist
That's a different podcast.
conversation. It gets a little deep because I'll just say one thing is like, yeah, those corporations helped form those governments that we have now. So
That's a whole other problem.
let's stay out of that conversation at this point. But let's just talk about. I mean, we may be not able to completely separate those two
Can't.
because if you look at like graphs of technological advancement in the past 200 years, most of that scientific advancement and technology has increased during times of war, and war is usually accompanied by government interaction in
Huge
other
spending.
people's business or maybe our business. But it's war. War during times of war, our society tends to grow in technological advancement, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, it's because the government spends shit tons of money figuring out the best way to do whatever it is we need to do.
Harm.
Harm or communicate or encrypt things or send data or power things or send shit into space, all kinds of different things, like how to feed people more efficiently, how to transport things more efficiently, how to fly, how to get things in the fucking air. Like there's so many things you can look back on, like branched off of some government project that maybe wasn't super useful for the military, but now they had this new knowledge, now they had this new technology, and it slowly, trickled into like the normal workplace or the normal economy and stuff. And, like end users got their hold of it and made a whole thing out of it. So it's like, but that goes back to the point of like it's just a matter of having the funds available, right? Because the funds are suddenly available when it's a matter of national defense. But if some of those same funds could be made available on a regular basis, imagine the stuff we could do. Like look back to like the moon landing, right? We spent shit tons of money on this huge project that everyone thought was ridiculous, just literally as a dick measuring contest with Russia, right? and like GPS came out of it, fucking rockets. We got SpaceX now landing shit, talking about going to Mars. Like stuff comes from that. It may not be obvious all the time what's going to come from it, but like the further we do research and the more money we spend on this stuff, things happen, things come out of it.
The problem I have with it though is the hiding of technology. So I think we talked about this. I think I brought it up on another one of our episodes. That whole fucking light bulb thing, where the 4 or 5 big light bulb companies, I forget what year it was, they all got together and they're like, no, we're only going to make light bulbs that last this long. So people have to keep rebuying them, and then you find out that there's that one light bulb in that fire station or whatever that's been burning for like 100 years.
Yep.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
Why would you not share that technology? Why? Because somebody wanted to get rich. I mean, I just don't understand human nature of why you need so much. Why does a person need so much when it can benefit the whole world? So that's my problem with technological advancement is the stuff that they keep hidden from us. Like cell phones. I know for a fact cell phones are built to last 2 years. They're built to last contract level. As long as your contract, and they start slowing down. Battery starts dying.
Well, then they even had Apple. Remember, it was like one of the software updates actually slowed it down so that you were basically forced to buy the newer version.
They blame the battery. They're like, oh, after X amount of years, the battery depletes to this much, so they can only provide this much current. So we have to underpower the CPU to keep up with what's actually available now, what we started with, and blah, 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 blah. And
have you watched the cell phones? A good industry to watch, because if you look at cell phones when they first come out, your big brick phones or whatever, they're like $2,000, and it's like $10 a minute to talk on it or something. Then we move into I guess it would be what,
Nokia's.
early 2000s maybe. You know, your flip phones and all this.
Razor.
And the phones are free phone. You know, you just have to have you just got to sign a contract. Now we flip the script again, and now these smartphones are $1,200-$1,500 a pop, and you have to pay the service. I mean, it's.
I mean, in terms of like technological
you
advance,
you can't tell me that this took more to create than my TV did.
I think it does. I mean, it's
No way. They've got these on an assembly line. I mean,
well,
No, it doesn't cost $1,200.
no, it
to
doesn't.
make that phone.
No. But the technology that's inside of it, there's way more stuff inside of your phone than there is in your screen.
well, I guess maybe so. I mean, yes,
There's
true.
modems and Bluetooth.
As technology progresses, things get smaller and smaller, so you have to figure out how to put those components into a phone. But and then as strong as they are, you got to figure out how to make them cooler and more efficient. Blah, blah,
As far as like technological advancements, so like what you guys would say are like the biggest ones you could think of in the last like 100 years that really like changed the fucking game? Like the internet,
Velcro.
obviously. Internet's a big one. You think Velcro? That's a different one. I'm not sure.
Nobody even uses Velcro
Not sure.
anymore. I don't think.
What are you kidding me?
You still get them on your
All my
shoes.
shoes have Velcro.
Let's see.
Those are like old versions of shoes that they keep producing.
Microwave ovens.
Microwave was in the 50s, 40s, 50s when those things were coming out. I think probably single-handedly ruined dinner for most people in the world.
When
They
did
had the money to buy one?
when did electricity start getting put in homes regularly?
That had to be like the 30s, 20s.
Oh, yeah, 30s, 20s.
That sounds like a-
late 20s and rich houses, 30s though.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one. I mean,
Yeah, electricity is a pretty big one, but that was invented in the last 100 years.
no, but yeah, I mean, like started coming into like regular folks' homes.
Well,
and stuff.
communication.
In 2022, the last 100 years is only the 1922. So it's like a lot of things were around the turn of the century that became popular.
Cars.
We were talking about
Yeah,
electricity,
cars. I
lighting.
mean, things
Yeah.
became cheaper and everybody could afford them. Color
Yeah.
TVs, communications. I mean, you went from a telegram or a telegraph to what we have now.
Like just think about 100 years ago, right? Like if you were a poor guy 100 years ago, you're like the daylight went down and it was fucking dark and you had to light candles. And if you were lucky, you had like a crank radio or a fucking book to read in the dark. And then you went to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you froze your ass off probably if you were somewhere cold, unless you had a fire. Like, you know what I mean? If you wanted to like talk to somebody, you had to send a fucking letter and wait and hope they got there.
Air conditioning.
AC.
Air conditioning
AC,
is a good one.
Batteries, computers, or like the processor. Like those three things.
It's fucking
Very huge.
mind-boggling how different things are.
Now, how many bad things had to be developed in order to make those three things?
Right?
I'm just thinking about like shit that like my grandma, like, she was born in '43, and she was she's from Dominican Republic, so she's a poor country, and like hearing some of the stories of like how she grew up, which is like it's in her lifetime, like it must be the most surreal thing to have been. I mean, like literally, like grows up on a farm, no electricity, they had water from a well. You know what I mean? Like they had to grow all their food. It's like literally like on some like fucking 1800s type shit, right? To like she is now, living in an apartment with, built-in heat and fucking plumbing and water, and can play on a fucking iPad, fucking
Her ice doesn't
Bejeweled.
melt.
Yeah, like it's just fucking crazy. Like electric everything, light at night. Like she can read books whenever she feels like. It's just she can talk to anyone whenever she wants. She can video phone call. I remember the first time I had her do a FaceTime call. She was just so blown away and she was just so geeked out about it. She's like, "Oh my god, it's the freaking future!" Like it's like, yeah, man, we take that shit for granted. But like the advancements we've made in the last 100 years is fucking crazy. Like we literally have little portable fucking computers in our pocket that are always connected to this worldwide communication infrastructure. It's like literal. It's fucking nuts.
That's nuts from that perspective. Like your grandma living in the Dominican Republic, But there were people here that were just out of the Great Depression that went through the
Exact same thing. Yeah.
and they were in a first quote unquote first world country, and they still went through those same kind of technological advancements. Maybe they were a little more primed for it or whatever. But isn't it ridiculous? Like, yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about. Like, even in 1990, I think 1994, my grandpa died in Mexico. We went to visit there. I still had to pee and poop in a
Outhouse.
like in a hole out. No, it wasn't even an outhouse. It was a hole in the backyard. That's what, and they didn't have, so they didn't have toilets. They didn't have, and not everybody, but I'm saying
Yeah.
my family in Mexico, they didn't have a toilet. They didn't have a really nice house or anything like that. They're still living in these like adobe type buildings, and they did have electricity, but I mean that was about it.
Yeah.
And that was in 1994, so that's not even that like
It's nuts.
I
Dude.
can't even imagine now. But my mom during the pandemic, my grandma died down there in Mexico, and she wasn't allowed to visit because of the Corona thing. And she did FaceTime, like you were saying, and was able to talk with her and communicate with her. She hadn't seen her since 1994, so like 20 years basically. So that was it's crazy that all that stuff had changed, but it gave her there were some positives as far as that technology coming out. It was able to give her the ability to see my grandma before she died.
So
Um,
I think the negatives about it, though, is it's probably made our society and our country weak as shit. I mean, how many guys do you know can go out and fucking hoe a field for 8 hours now? None. I mean, we're all used to
agreed.
sitting
I
on
think-
our ass and having computer jobs, and I mean, there's some guys out there that can do it. I mean, like UPS
There's some people that are
drivers and
doing
shit.
tough jobs.
They're always,
but there's a lot more weak people. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you
We've-
read books about it.
we've become
But
physically
people used
weaker.
to go into the factories, and they would basically risk their lives to work in a factory or
Yeah.
even in the fields or whatever.
Or like you see those pictures or videos on YouTube of them dudes that like built the Empire State Building. They're
Oh,
just
yeah.
chilling on the beams, like with nothing holding them up there, just eating their lunch. What are you
How
doing,
many people died
B-Roy?
building that building?
Right?
Like, that wasn't even like. I mean, that building took like a couple years to build. I think like 3 years or something. But how many people died? Like 30 people building that. And that's just one story, one building. There's like lots of other buildings that are like that in New York. I'm sure lots of other people died building too.
I just want to let you guys know real quick. I just got a message from my daughter. We have our monthly bingo tonight. It starts at 6, so we'll have to wrap this up about 45 minutes into it.
Okay.
So we won't have an hour episode today, but I forgot all about it. And it's interrupting my Elden Ring.
Yeah, that too.
Son of a... Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we had around the turn of the century, people would do everything: gold mining, silver mining, lead mining, all this stuff that would help scientific advancement, help the war effort, et cetera, but they risked their lives for it, for the monetary value of that dollar.
Not only that, it's also like
And
how many lives did we spend that could have been used for better things? Like how many Albert Einsteins were fucking sitting there cutting grass or fucking hoeing a field, like you said, that could have been inventing some crazy shit, but they never had the opportunity to like learn how to read. You know what I'm saying? Or like go to school. You know what I mean? Like this. So it's like, yeah, then maybe we're not as physically fit as we were 100 years ago because we don't need to be as physically fit, but we also have way more capability and way more intelligence on a large scale than people from 100 something years ago. Like I'm sure that our literacy rate is way higher.
Oh, yeah.
potentially,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I would think that that's the case. As far as the literacy rate, yeah, it should be higher. Potentially, we have more discoveries and stuff like that now. We definitely have more general innovation, but is all of that good innovation? Is that all positive? Like, is it all worth it? I'm not sure.
And what about like medical advancements? Like, people used to die when like their 30s, 40s, whatever it was, right? Shit was rough, maybe 50s, and now people live way longer. You have people that get cancer, they can get to remission. You know what I mean? They can figure that out. They have all kinds of surgeries, and you know, people who get diabetes, they get insulin now. You don't just fucking die. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, except you have to pay $7,000 for it.
yeah.
Yeah, you get to live longer, but you'll be in debt the rest of your
Yeah.
life. So
Depending on the country you live in.
That's true. That's another thing, man. That's just really
most countries still.
why do we allow companies to do this in our society? I don't understand it. And ship off all these billions of dollars to other countries and stuff, but we can't just take care of our own people.
Yep.
I don't get it. I don't understand. Help me understand, politicians, businesses. Why are you so fucking greedy? Why do you need so much?
It's the movie Wall Street's fault.
Probably.
Greed is good. Yeah. It's the 80s. That's where it happened. It's wrong. Reagan's fault.
Is it?
That's a joke.
I mean,
It's the military-industrial complex.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
Eisenhower
don't have to
did warn
explain
about
that to me, but
No, it's a joke.
anyway, it's
Well, we talked about that. It's like a military guy warning the world
Yeah.
about the military, but not the military itself. It's
The people, the industrial complex
the
surrounding
entity
it.
behind
Yeah.
it. The people.
The industrialists.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of blame there that can lead to that. The same kind of thing, like these corporatocracy that we have nowadays. The people at the top, the people we would call, or some people would call elites. I don't think that they're elite. I think that they're just greedy and psychopaths. But that's one thing. But I mean, you're right. I mean, the scientific advancement has reached this point where we have longer life and stuff. But how much more do you think is out there? How much more advancement do you?
I mean,
see?
that's
How
the
much more potential do we have?
that's the thing is like when we're talking about the advancements and like what's right, what's wrong, or the ethics and the morality of involved is like right now I feel like we're at the precipice of like this huge thing especially when it comes to like medical advancements where like we're doing gene therapy and fucking figuring out stem cell shit and like all these blurry lines are going to start happening with regards to like is it okay to like clone a part or like print a part that's made out of some DNA that we copied from your cells or something like is that cool? Like, oh, we're gonna take some stem cells and we're gonna make them make a different organ or something. Like, or we're gonna take some of your DNA and like make specific antibodies that are designed for your body so your immune system won't fight it. Like, there's all this crazy shit that they're figuring out how to do. Or you look at CRISPR and just like genome, like just figuring out how to like mess with your genome and stuff. Like, where's the lines with that? Like, oh yeah, we don't want short people anymore, and you start having designer babies, and like we only want, and then, so it's like it's all this stuff that's like at the cusp of happening in the next 20 years that maybe hasn't come to full fruition yet, but it's like super blurry lines, and it's like it'd be kind of cool, like Aaron's point of, well, people are weaker than they were 100 years ago. Well, what if we can just modify all the genomes of all the people in the whole country? Like, everyone's going to be a super soldier. We're all going to be 7 feet tall and be predisposed to be jacked and never have diabetes and never get cancer and never get this and never get that and never get sick, have the best immune systems, and everyone's going to have 20/20 vision and like high bone density or whatever, like, and be super smart. Like, this is all shit that hypothetically they'll be able to select for in the future.
It's going to be awesome to watch football after that.
It's going to be awesome when you're in an entirely different class of human. Like, we're gonna be like superhumans and us.
And then us.
Yeah.
And then Magneto will have that psychopath's gonna.
That's gonna
start
be
a war with us.
that's the next step in evolution, if you think about it in a way. It's like we've surpassed nature, so like natural selection just isn't working anymore for us. I don't feel like, because we've like outgrown its influence on us, and now we are gonna just start evolving ourselves.
Well, we're definitely not
Well,
at the whim of natural selection anymore. That's for sure.
well, I don't know
Yeah.
about that. You think about these motherfuckers eating Tide Pods and shit like that. I mean, it still exists.
Well,
Those are gonna be the workers, Aaron.
The worker bees.
Yeah, that's
there's
part
still
of
gonna
the
be Darwin
that's
Awards
part of the
given
plan.
no matter what. But as like the overall gene pool, I think we've advanced and we've adapted ourselves to the point where we don't really have much risk, anymore. Other
We
than the
have
risks we bring upon ourselves.
we have
We really
a
bring
shit ton of biodiversity. Like we can literally interbreed across the entire planet, and it's like a more common thing to interbreed and like have all this you know, super biodiversity amongst the populations. Like you're way less susceptible to certain diseases, certain pathogens and whatnot. Like in 100, and let's say 200 years, right? Everyone's all one color, right? Or 300 years, everyone's one color because we're all just big. We're all
So
we're all
it's going to be
beige,
a nice
beige.
shade of beige.
Yep. And then what I mean, like everyone's gonna be able to talk the same language or have some fucking chip that translates everything to whatever fucking language you understand. Like the culture is homogenized because the entire planet's been on the internet fucking for the last 300 years, so we can always talk in whatever. Like the only thing
Yeah,
is,
I guess that assumes
That's
that society doesn't collapse by the year 2035 or whatever it is. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. That might be.
I'll
the
put you guys
future.
on hold for just a second. Y'all go ahead.
I don't know. Sometimes I doubt that that's going to be the future, just because history has not really allowed for, or not history has not allowed for, but in history, people have not allowed for that to happen. You know what I mean?
we've never been at this point in history, as far as we're aware. Like
Well,
we've never
the
been at
Roman
this
Empire was
advanced.
the biggest and for its time, kind of not comparable to us, but I'm just saying comparable in terms of its scope, its width across the world. It's pretty comparable, at least the known world at that time.
I mean,
And they did have a lot of, you know, mixing and stuff like that then, but they still didn't have. They still had diverse cultures and diverse, mechanisms. They just incorporated the Roman architecture and the Roman way into their countries and stuff like that.
it's all a matter
Still
of
have
breaking down
still have
the
places like
tribal.
Sweden that are like 99%, white hair, blonde,
Yeah.
blue-eyed people.
300 years, man. We'll see.
And I'm saying that eventually those people will be confronted with the opportunity, or what they're going to think is not an opportunity, to mix. And as long as those differences are there, you're always going to have something. Even if we're all even if we're all beige, there's going to be people that decide
We'll find other
to
be to divide
against
us.
each other,
Yeah.
because because people are so
We're tribal.
tribal and exclusionary on a lot of things.
Yeah.
They're gonna find a way. It's like, oh, those guys like Apple Jacks and we like Fruit Loops, so we're
Yeah.
gonna, we're the two different warring clans or whatever. Like,
They're from the
that's
southern
just not
hemisphere,
real.
and we're from the northern hemisphere, and those guys are from this continent. We're from this continent. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? We'll find some other bullshit to argue
But-
about, but I think the
but-
level to which
yeah,
the level to which people will like hold things, like the amount of like animosity that will divide things will be less because like it's not there won't be as much history behind it. You know what I mean? Like right now I feel like
I don't know. I don't agree. I think it'll be that there's, because it's already growing in this secular, or well, for lack of a better word, secular, but people are putting themselves into little different sects, different tribes and such, and it's getting to the point where even the left and the right, as far as politics is concerned, doesn't know where to go because there's so much division within their own parties. Nobody's representative of
but
anybody
that's not
else.
even real shit. Like that's make believe shit. You mean like that's literally
But that's
but
That's what we were just talking about.
No, I
All those
under,
guys,
yeah, but like
Applejack, and those guys are.
once
They'll,
you
they'll find a way to do that with themselves, and people are.
People are always
It's
going to hate
when
each
people-
other. There's
people are
be
gonna hate
always-
It's true.
people are gonna find ways to divide themselves, but I don't think it's gonna be at with the exception of maybe religion and and race. I can't think of much else that people have really super duper divided
I
about.
mean,
Status,
there's a
society.
Status, but that will exist regardless, right? So I mean that will be a thing people hate on. But like if race is gone and
Either
religion's
smart
gone,
or-
Imagine
It'll be-
there's no heaven.
anyway, my whole thing is
I
like,
don't know. We got
if you
kind of got on
try.
a sidetrack there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
As far as like the scientific piece of it, like we've gone through what? Okay, so people have longer life. They probably do have a better quality of life. We live in a time where we can live longer. We have generally less to worry about. We don't die of like cholera every day. We don't have a lot of the diseases.
shit.
We might have more diseases now, but we have fewer deadly diseases now, I think.
We just don't see them because our immune system has become immune to them.
We're also figuring out
There's probably a million diseases floating around right now in my house, but
we're figuring out how to stop aging, right? Like they have that they have like a bunch of success with like anti-aging and
shoot, got that
But
Benjamin Button.
there was actually
Yep.
like a Chinese study that just went through that said that they were able to successfully do that in mice,
yeah,
anti-age the mice.
yeah.
So now they're moving to clinical trials. I don't know if they should do that, but they're already moving towards clinical trials, which means they're going to be
It's
doing
the
that.
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park thing. We were spending so much time wondering if we could do it. We didn't wonder if we should do it.
If we should. Now
Well,
they've also had claims
that will
they
drastically.
actually arrested somebody for cloning somebody, a human person, in China as well. That guy went to jail. You know, supposedly. I don't know if it actually happened, but China
No, he's
just
in a
released him, I
bunker,
think.
and they're making a little clone army. He's working for the government.
It makes sense that China would want to do that though, because they need people. Their population is
Oh yeah, they
friendly.
need people.
Well.
Aren't
They're
they like the
aging.
second most?
Yeah, but they have like a high.
They're
They have like a
all
super
old.
high. Well, yeah, age population. Like their population is aging out because they don't have enough. They don't have enough males and females
Right.
couples.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it's like 75 to.
It's
or
because
like-
they're all playing World of Warcraft and their freaking internet.
No, it's
languages.
because they killed
It's
all
like
the females
60,
because they thought they would be good to have males because of their culture and farming and bullshit. And now there's
No,
not
but
enough
that's another
females.
part of it. A lot of them don't want to get married or have kids as well. I mean, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
same thing that's happening in Japan. You know,
Those I'm thinking Japan. I
Japan,
think
there's
where it's
people
like
that don't want to get married and have kids.
I think the average age do people lose their virginity in Japan? I think it was like 31 or some shit, or like just it was something like that. And I was like, what the
That's
fuck?
that's when they get out of school.
It's fucking bonkers.
Is it?
don't even-
31 years
No.
old, probably about time you're done with school in Japan.
Well, that's in America for sure because everybody's treated like a child until they're 27. So
Well, I mean, they just that's around the world. Though. I know people personally. They're like, you know, the whole father, mother, 2 kids, house with a white picket fence and 2 cars. That's just not reality to some people anymore. It's I want to live in a
that
mini
was
house.
1950s. It's not
Yeah, I want to
anymore.
live. I want to live by myself in a mini house, have all this money, travel the world. I don't want kids. We have enough people. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, that's a whole vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that people have been saying that we have too many people, but I think that's propaganda. I think that's a lie.
Well,
Now,
I'm just saying
China,
that's what people say when they say, "Well, we don't need any more people.
right,
We've
right.
got enough."
But I'm saying, like, think that we've succumbed to propaganda, and now we actually have issues in some countries with people having kids, and they're not going to be able to support the 70s and 80-year-old people that they have that are in hospitals and stuff because they can't afford to keep them up, or they don't have the know-how to keep the infrastructure up in order to keep these people that were
So-
living longer because of society.
I don't think that's an accident. So if you think
Well, I
about
don't think it's an
so
accident
hear me
either.
out.
That's why I
So
said
if you think
propaganda.
about like yeah, but like where the countries where people are decided they don't want to have kids are the countries where they have that as an option, right? Like where you don't need the kids to help fucking farm because you have, you know, you play World of Warcraft in your mom's basement. You know what I mean? Like that's an option. You can choose to just fuck off and not do something. But in all those poor countries where like people are still having kids super young and they're having families super young because they need it as a means to survive, right? And like progress and keep this their village going or whatever. Like that's still happening. And like historically, like in countries where the population was decimated by war or illness or whatever, like, and the birth rate didn't keep up with the replacement rate, what they ended up doing was getting super lax on immigration and then just immigrating people to do the labor or whatever it may be to like make up for that difference. And like that's what's happening in a lot of these places, or it's going to have to happen in all of these places. But a lot of them are scared of having outsiders come in and change their culture. That's what like Japan's having huge internal debates about getting more lax with their immigration policy. Same thing in China because they realize that there's only so much they can do to keep this from to stop this from happening, right? But at the same time, they don't want to like stop they don't want to they don't want to fuck up their culture or like what they feel is like their you know their
Yeah. So what they're going to do is they'll bring these people in and they'll treat them like lesser people. Is what they end up doing.
yeah gaijin,
And then
right?
you have more, right? And then you have more conflict and more societal class issues and stuff like that.
But if you think what a weird situation where uh we have this stuff going on in a lot of first world countries, and then we also have um, like global warming happening and a bunch of
All
like
those first world countries.
well close to first world. Japan's first world. I mean, China's. I would consider China most of China
I
first
think
world.
USA is the only first world country I think there is.
Anyway,
Technically.
you know what I mean. So developed. Let's say developed countries, right? So like then you have all these countries that are being impacted by global warming, and like they have huge immigration like max exodus and all this other stuff where people like migrating across places, and then you have um, refugees going all over to the, getting put into different countries, like kind of, you know what I mean?
Well,
So what's the point?
we're
Like,
kind of
what's
off the tech subject.
Yeah, we are off the tech subject, but it leading
well,
us
we're talking
towards
about
the whole how this technological advancement is like leading us to a
Well, I
more
mean, another thing is putting the people out of work.
homogenous.
They said that at our last job, where we were working, all three of us, in 25 years or 20 years or 10 years, 50% of the jobs that are available now won't even be jobs.
It'd be
There's going to be
automated.
some new shit out. I mean, they're always going to need people because there's going to be new shit that comes out. But, I mean, eventually it's going to be like Idiocracy. I mean, everything is just going to be automated and robots do everything, and we're just going to sit and eat Doritos and drink our Brondo because we don't have anything to do.
potentially. I mean, I hope it doesn't get to that point, but we'll see. I guess.
The only
But
thing
I
that'll
guess
stop it is like a huge EMP and the whole world shuts down and we go back to the 1800s and start
Well,
over and do the
that's-
last couple hundred years.
I mean, if a World War III with actual nukes happens, that's what it will.
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. Or an asteroid.
Yeah. But like, if we go back to what we're talking about, like these, anti-aging and this scientific advancement, like, would you guys consider that playing God?
Shit, man. The argument could be made that fucking antibiotics are playing God. You know what I mean? Like that like depending on how much of a zealot you want to be and how much you want to like enforce whatever rules you want to enforce. Like people like what are we
Yeah,
supposed
I would
to?
say generally people are going to say that giving somebody medicine is not playing God because you can like pick a
Nowadays,
you can pick a
they used
plant
to
or
think
something like
they used
that
to
and
think
eat it off.
they used to think those ladies were witches and they used to burn them. Like you know what I mean? Like it's all a matter. It's all a matter of perspective and like
I don't know where you draw the line on that,
Yeah.
to be honest. I haven't really thought about it to just truthfully. Is it playing God to reverse aging? I mean, I don't see how that could ever be a thing for mass society that's only going to be a thing for the extremely wealthy because
I don't know.
No, I believe the same thing. I don't think they're going to make that an option for everybody.
All the people that think there's too many people already, well, what are we going to do when we're still having kids and nobody's dying because they're Benjamin Buttoning? I think that's another reason for the whole. I mean, that's another podcast, but that's the whole gay agenda that's being pushed so hard. It's no more breeding. Stop.
There might be something to that, actually.
There's something to that. Look into
there's
it.
there's propaganda out there about, and it's been around there for a long time. Even Michael, what's his name? Gate.
I wouldn't say it's a thing they're pushing. I think it's more of a thing that existed. It's always existed.
It's okay. The eugenicists have been pushing it since the late 1700s. Ideas to get rid of, especially lower class and minorities. Why? Because they believe that they would never succeed past where they are because they're a lesser people, lesser race, or whatever. And it wasn't just people of color; it was poor people in general. And they've always been pushing this idea that, and since then they've been pushing the idea that we have too many people on Earth. Why? Because these people are on our streets. They exist here, and if there were fewer people, there'd be fewer of those people.
I think I want to do that on our next podcast. Actually, I want y'all to I'll do my research again, and you guys do research this week on the population control agenda, and
it's a good topic.
See what you come up with in your own research, and we'll come back and talk about it next week.
I think what will inevitably happen if we have too many people is that we'll have to find somewhere else to be. You know what I mean? Like, and then we've already it will push us to our next phase of like manifest destiny in a way, right? Where like the stars, right? Like if people no longer age, that overcomes a huge part of the obstacles to expand and go out, right? Because a lot of the shit that stops us from going to other planets is this whole concept of age and death and like our lifespan and like losing life and losing time, like losing parts of our huge chunks of our life being out in space. But if we suddenly never fucking age, you know what I'm saying, and we can just get put into cryogenic chambers.
I thought it was that the Earth was ending and that they had to get rid of it.
I'm going back to what I said. It's not going to be available for everybody because the people inventing this and the people that will have control of this technology, they're not going to be like, hey, let's give this to Billy Bob down here with a 71 IQ.
It's Pandora's box, man. It's only a matter of time before the shit gets out and some other idiot figures it the fuck out. Like, it's one of those things where, like,
But it won't matter if they figure it out. They'll just buy them out. Everything goes to that same spot. It's like the wealthiest people have access to all the stuff that we as regular people don't. Like, they get COVID, they're healed in like 3 days or 2 days, and the rest of us.
You find that suspicious?
We'll deal with it for 2 months.
If it takes 100 years or whatever it is, as long as we're still alive, it's inevitable for that to come out and to trickle down somehow. It's just bound to happen.
You can say that it can eventually eke its way into it, but they're still gonna.
Unless they ban it entirely, it's inevitable.
You ever seen that movie? What's that movie with Justin Timberlake?
Just in time, or in time, something like that. Or
in time, I think is what it's called. Just in time. That'd be a better name because he's in it, right? I think.
Yeah. He was.
Okay. In time, it's the same kind of thing. You get these rich people living in their own sectors. They've got
endless time.
They've got abundance of time. They have time that they can just throw away at any point, and people are scrounging for time on the streets, doing whatever they can.
That's probably how they'll use it.
Yeah, I got to wrap it up, guys. So I think we're all in agreement that the advancement of technology, there's pros and there's cons. Probably more cons, in my opinion. But
there's more possible upside, but it's unlikely for us to go that way
because people suck.
Yeah.
So
we are playing God to a degree with a lot of the scientific advancements that we're getting into nowadays, but at the same time, you get a little bit of the pros from it. A little bit of that ekes down to the normal people, and they get to live a little bit better life. And longer life. But I think if I had the opportunity, I would want to get rid of a lot of the scientific advances that we do have, because I think it gets rid of a lot of the negative aspects that we live with nowadays. I don't want to.
All right. So, do y'all's research. Remember, next week, and those for listening, we're going to talk about the population control agenda. So look it up, check it out, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.
Later, guys.